morning.
Morning. I'm glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you too. I have more energy today than I have recently because I had caffeine this morning, and I don't know if you remember, but I had given it up
Yeah. But why'd
about
you
a
go
month
back?
ago. Honestly, I'm just I'm just treating myself with a latte this morning. But
Got it.
in general, this is crazy. I don't feel the need to go back. Like after I got through my first 10 or so days,
Mm-hmm.
and it was 10 solid days of a terrible headache and being pretty crap because my caffeine addiction was serious. But I don't miss it. And I am
Good.
sleeping so much better.
I know that was the
So
whole reason to initiate it, yeah?
it was, yeah, it was. And that paired with about 5 milligrams of melatonin, and I am
Out
I'm
for the
on
whole night?
it's not for the whole night.
Ah,
But if I do wake up, I can almost always go back to sleep, and I'm waking up way less. So I consider that to be a vast, vast improvement.
I was just about to say that's a serious improvement for a small sacrifice, theoretically. And
Yes.
yeah, kudos to you for having the determination to do it.
I'm my personality is a bit I'm a kind of a dog with a bone. And if I decide I'm going to do something, then I do it, and I do it hard.
Mm-hmm.
Usually,
Mm-hmm.
when I Christmas hard. Um
Straight
if I decide
personality.
that, yeah, exactly. So it's once I make a commitment to something, it's not usually too hard for me to follow through with it, but especially sleep's a big quality of life issue.
Absolutely.
So 100% worth it. And I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this, at this stage in my life where I've got I've got kids that have a lot of things going on. They need me a lot. I've got, this business. I'm involved in a lot of different things, a lot of different projects.
Mm-hmm.
There's just I don't know that there is I don't know that anyone in my position would always sleep through the night without waking up and worrying about something. That's just not the nature of my life right now. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Oh, 100%. I just had to give my 1.5-year-old kudos today because she actually slept in her bed all night last night and didn't wake up in the middle of the night and try to come get in my bed and stay awake for the rest of the hours. So,
Oh,
I'm not strong against it. If you want to come get in my bed in the middle of the night, it's fine. Just go to sleep. She don't want to even go to sleep. So, I
yeah.
understand what you were saying.
Yeah, so have all of your kids are they good sleepers, bad sleepers, difficult sleepers?
I mean, they have gone through their own phases, I suppose, but I'm pretty
Mhm.
adamant about them not starting the night in my bed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
we got to that point, right? After a year, because I breastfed for a year and I kept them in the
Mhm.
bed. Shh, don't tell anybody for a year. Uh,
Your secret is safe with
all of
me
us,
and everyone everyone listening right now.
right? My pediatrician
And
knows.
the internet. Your secret's safe with the internet,
Man,
obviously.
yep. Let you in a small
Yeah.
secret.
Mhm. Yeah. No, so I breastfed both my kids, and I think that it was a lot harder to get them to sleep through the night actually because I breastfed them,
Hmm.
which I don't regret having done that at all, but I think they got so attached to the need to kind of nurse to sleep,
Hmm.
and I could not provide that to them if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted it. And so it was my kids did not sleep for the first year of their life. My second one was better because I was better about it, but my first one didn't sleep more than 2 hours for the entire first year of his life. It was awful.
But did he sleep in your bed?
No, not after the first 4 or 5 months. Then we moved him down to his room because we were hoping to improve the situation. So then
Oh,
I would just get up and go. Yeah, I would
uh-huh.
get up and go back
Hmm.
and forth, which was way worse for me. I probably should have just kept him in there. No, for my second, we kept him in the room for a lot longer, and not in the bed because I couldn't sleep like that
Yeah.
because I would be paranoid about it.
Hmm.
But in there, and that was way less disruptive
Yes, at least it
because
was in the room.
yes, it's all about the level of disruption
That you
of
can
your
tolerate.
exactly.
That's how you know you're
Yes.
ready for potty training. Because when the poop is too much for you to tolerate, and you're like, this is too much like grown people poop, then you're like, you know what? Let's get this potty out.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So we could not get okay, one more quick let's do the potty training stories,
I know,
and
right?
then we'll get to care labbing. But so, for my actually, we did this with my second son too, just because it worked so well for our first. But like, number one, peeing in the potty, it was easy.
Mhm, mhm.
In fact, he did that at daycare. He did that himself, without anyone telling him to do it. I just picked him up one day, and his teachers at daycare were like, "So he decided he's going to pee in the potty because the little girls are all doing it because girls are faster than
Yes,
boys."
yes,
So
yes,
he was like,
very.
"Well, why am I peeing in my pants when all the little girls don't have to pee
He
in their
said,
pants?" So
"Don't
he
get a
decided.
good look. I'm not trying to look like that in front of these girls."
Exactly. So like he did that on his own. That was super super easy. But number two,
Much
he
harder.
was not feeling that. He liked the warm squishies or whatever it was. Um, but so our pediatrician was like, "Let him go outside." I'm like,
Like,
go
poop
poop
outside?
outside." Yeah, go poop outside. And we have like a pretty private backyard. So we're
Sure.
like, "Okay, whatever." At this point, whatever.
We'll do
Let's just
whatever.
get this kid let's just get this kid pooping not in a diaper, and worked like a charm. The only bad part was that the first time he did it, we were actually on vacation visiting my dad and stepmom, and he did it in their backyard.
And they were like, "Excuse me, what?"
And they were, yeah, and I was like, "Oh, no, no, no worries," and we just, went picked it up with, like, a doggy poo bag, but it
I've
worked
never heard
really,
anything
really
like
well.
this.
Oh my gosh, it worked so well, and honestly, like, after that, he was of course, he was jazzed about pooping outside. We did have an incident with my younger son where he once pooped in the front yard at someone else's house, but they were pretty chill about it. Um
Are you still friends?
Oh, yeah. So,
Okay,
listen,
good.
you gotta I don't my husband and I are not friends probably with people who are not understanding if a child poops in their front yard.
Listen,
If you can't understand that, you're probably not our people.
okay, I know we've been on this for a while, but I just have to ask this question. Why is it that the going in the backyard, what is the trigger? That it's more fun to do it in the backyard? So he
Yeah,
wants to go do it?
I think it's just, like, more exciting to go outside because it's kind of taboo, right?
Okay.
You're just, like, footloose and fancy free. I also think this is interesting. I think that it's actually, like, squatting is just a more natural position to go poop in, right?
That's
And if
why our
you watch
toilets are
kids,
low.
that's what, yeah. So, like, if you watch a kid poop in their diaper, most of the time, like, they'll go
Go to
find a
a
little
corner.
hideaway,
Mhm.
they'll go to a corner and they'll squat down,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so I think that was also just a way more natural position for him to experience his first, like, non-poop in a diaper
Mhm.
rather than sitting on, like, a cold, hard toilet seat,
Got it.
So that's I don't have any evidence to back that up, but it just seems like it makes sense to me.
I mean, it does make sense. If I if my littlest one has trouble, we're already starting
Uh-huh.
pottying because she sees her big siblings do it, so she's actually pretty
Uh-huh.
early. But if we have
Mhm.
trouble making it fully transition, I promise you we will try outside.
You know what? It sounds crazy. It's not that bad. It's better than cleaning up
Oh, for sure.
a poopy butt in a poopy diaper for
Mhm.
longer than necessary. I honestly this it was not my intention to have this conversation this morning. I don't know how my son is gonna feel about this.
I was thinking about that.
This is well, forgive me, son, if you ever hear this. Anyway. Okay, should we care lab something?
I mean, I think that was a care lab. We care lab potty
Oh,
training.
oh, that's true, we did care lab potty training
So you
because
get a
they're
bonus care
probably
lab.
bonus care
Mhm.
lab potty training.
Mhm.
Don't come after me if this method does not work for you, or if you have a problem with it. I'm just saying it worked for us. Um, okay, so I have a topic this morning that's a little bit different than what we normally discuss because a lot of times when we're care labbing things, we're talking about, fall prevention or home modification or like
Mhm.
how to provide a certain level of care or like we're talking about caring for other people,
Okay.
right? In like kind of that caregiving role. But I thought it would also be a great conversation to have. So most of the people who are listening to Care Lab are probably, folks like us. They're maybe in their their 40s, maybe they're in their 50s, they're in that kind of sandwich generation where they've got kids and they've also, maybe in their late 30s too, they've got kids, but they've also got aging parents or older adults in their lives that either they're supporting now or that they realize they're gonna be responsible for supporting.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we would talk a little bit about not necessarily caring for other folks. I'm gonna get to a point. I'm gonna get to a point. Just
Bring it
bear with
home.
me, everyone. I'm getting there. Um, I'm famous for having trouble getting to my point. Um, so but like thinking about our own aging process and like our own successful aging
Uh-huh.
and what we need to do in order to like take good care of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And so, but I wanted to like get really specifically into that and talk about the benefit of having challenges and variety in your life and in like your routine and taking on new
Mm,
things when it comes to like taking care of your own body and your own brain as
interesting.
you are aging yourself, right?
That's true. So you're saying this in the form of like, for example, for dementia. If you want to do some things to prevent it in your life, one of the ways you can do it is to continue learning, whatever that is. It doesn't necessarily mean school. It means like doing new things, learning new tasks, not always having the same routine. Is that like what you are kind of alluding to?
Yeah, kind of. And I think and I do want to draw a distinction here between when we're talking about people who are are currently healthy, they don't have any conditions or anything going
Mm-hmm.
on. And yes, having variety and challenges and doing different things in your life as a way of like protecting your own brain against these things. I want to draw a distinction between that and folks who may have dementia, or if you're
Okay.
caring for someone with dementia, because one of the things we actually don't want to do for people who actively have dementia if we're caring for them is we don't want to constantly challenge them with new things or new information, right? That is actually not
Absolutely.
something that we want to do to people who have dementia, if we're actively caring for them. So I just want to like draw a distinct line between that. We're talking about people who are healthy and wanting to continue to stay healthy as much as possible. But yeah, that's absolutely one of the things. And thinking about, um, uh, both brain health, but also like physical health. Hey there, it's Amelia. Listen, I am so thrilled to have a great resource like Ask Sammy as part of the Care Lab team. And here's why. It's a game changer for aging in place because it makes it so simple. All you do is ask. Just type in your question or even tell Sammy what the problem is and get tailored solutions. Everything from innovative adaptive equipment to comprehensive resources. It's a great way to become more empowered, to live more independently, and to live with greater confidence. And my favorite thing about how Ask Sammy works is it's deeply rooted in dignity and practicality. So, whether you're a fellow therapist, a care partner, or someone who's seeking solutions for themselves, visit www.asksammy.com. We're going to link it in the show notes so you can find it there. Start making home more accessible today. Now, back to the show. You adapt to things, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the primary concepts of this, and I think maybe we should start by talking about like brain health, is like neuroplasticity. I'm
Sure.
gonna stop talking here for a second, and I'm going to let you talk for a second about, like, neuroplasticity and what it and what it is.
Okay, so neuroplasticity sounds like a big word, but it basically means that your brain can always change and learn and grow. And so I know the adage is an old dog, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And while it might be more challenging, the older we get, your brain is capable of doing it. And the other thing to go along with that definition is homeostasis. Is the first thing I think about is that your body is always trying to find the most stable and efficient way to do things. It wants to do things in the same way. And so, in working out, for example, if you want to lose weight, you have to change it up and change what you eat and change the way you get activity in. And when you do that, then your body's like, whoo, this is different. I got to work harder to figure out how to get myself back to homeostasis. And so I can chill. And then you want to if you want to keep accelerating or agitating that process, you got to change the routine again. So those are like two concepts that are science based, but I'm assuming we're going to talk about how that plays into and why it's important, not just like a preference of yours to change it up, but it's actually important. It has like biological consequences for you.
Yeah, exactly. And we think a lot about, like, in the rehab world, we think a lot about neuroplasticity when we're working with people who are stroke survivors, maybe who are survivors of traumatic brain injury. Anytime someone basically has, any kind of insult or injury to their brain, we often think about neuroplasticity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, but as you said, neuroplasticity really is this concept that happens all the time, just meaning that our brains can continue to grow and change all of the time. And our brain is constantly either making connections
Mm-hmm.
or it's pruning connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the experiences that we're putting into that brain. So if we want our brains to continue to, like, fire on all cylinders, then going out there, challenging it, and doing new things is a really important way to maintain our brain health and our mental clarity, for as long as possible. Um, so, like, can you think of any good examples for ways that people could, like, actually in their day-to-day lives kind of implement some of those, like, that kind of recommendation?
Oh, there are so many ways. There are so many ways. Um, and it can be tailored to like what it is that you like. The very first thing I think of, because my life is inundated with this, is having kids around. So either I mean, like, because they're always wanting to do something new. And if you,
Mhm,
instead of like shepherding them into a same routine is important, but like instead of just always sending them to do something on their own, engage in the thing with them, and use their, level of creativity to also spice up what you're doing. And so it
mhm.
doesn't have to be your kids. It can be your grandkids. It can be your nieces and nephews. It can be volunteering at a place with kids. Like, I feel like they make it easy for things to be changing and doing differently all the time without you having to think about it. So that's the first thing I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that, and sometimes it can be challenging as a parent, like, or I know for me personally, like, if I'm tired, if I had a long day at work and my kids wanna go do XYZ, sometimes it can be challenging to be like, "Yeah, I'm up for that, let's go do it."
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, they are a great sort of, like, built-in roller coaster, and if you go with it, I always find, like, if I find the energy to go do whatever my kids wanted to do, most of the time I have a better time than if I just sat at home.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I
Mhm.
try to remember that when they're asking, and my first reaction is no. And I'm like, don't just say no all the time. Just don't always say
Yeah.
no. How many times can you say yes today?
Yeah, yeah. I think, another thing that you can think about too is to always have something that you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, it should be something that you enjoy learning. Like, if you enjoy traveling,
Mm-hmm.
then trying to, take a class to learn the language
Mm-hmm.
of whatever country you're traveling to. And it's so easy to do something like that nowadays, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can, you can download an app and do your language classes in the car on the way to soccer practice or on the way to work or whatever it is, and it's just a way to, like, get your brain engaged and get it thinking in new ways, but hopefully in ways that are meaningful to you as well. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the other side of this equation when we're talking about neuroplasticity and we're talking about learning. These things always work better when the task that you're doing or the activity or the information that you're focused on is salient and meaningful to you
Mm-hmm.
in some way. So, going out and doing a bunch of stuff simply to, like, say that you've done it, or to make yourself uncomfortable. And I do think actually, like, it's good to make yourself uncomfortable sometimes too. If you're
Mm-hmm.
learning something new, you should feel a little bit uncomfortable about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how you know it's working actually, is
Mm-hmm.
like you get uncomfortable and then and then all of a sudden you're comfortable with it. And that's how you know you actually made some progress, I think. But it's a lot easier to do and it works a lot better if it's something that you want to do because it's meaningful to you or adds value to your life in some
Mhm.
way too. So trying to pick activities or challenges that really that that are something that you have interested in. I think that that's a super important thing to go along with it as well.
I think it's really hard to think of new ideas if you haven't been doing this. And so, one thing to
Mhm.
do is to use AI to help you. So, whether it's ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or whatever tool, they all can do this. If you say, I like cats and purple and being outside, I need some new activities to do, it will do the work for you. Give me 5 activities that I can do. And then it gives you 5, and maybe activity 2 and 3 sound interesting. Give me 10 more, like 2 or 3, and it'll just pop out stuff. And then you don't have to be the creative one to think of new stuff, and it can come up with it. You can just be like, oh, great, I can do that. And it can be tailored, like you said, to things that you're already interested in.
Yeah, I think that this is that's a great suggestion. I also think that, like, this is a really important topic and conversation to have for folks who might be listening and maybe their parents just retired and
Mm-hmm.
their parents are totally fine and healthy, but they've retired. Or maybe we have people who are listening who have recently retired. A lot of times when we're still working, when we're still actively engaged in like raising kids and doing all these things, our brains can be like pretty challenged all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we retire and we don't have that meaningful, productive work to go do every day,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy for our world to shrink. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so often as a therapist is people stop working and they say, "Oh, great. I'm so glad I just get to I'm going to put my feet up and rest and I'm done doing all this stuff." And then before you know it, like they're not going out with their friends as often. Maybe they decide it's more comfortable to stay at home than it is to go travel. So the other part of this that I think is like a really important thing to do if you can is to try and travel as much as possible, because
Yes.
travel just requires, again, if we want to prevent our world from like shrinking, especially after we retire or as the demands on us might diminish, if we want to stop our world from shrinking, then we have to purposely seek out ways to expand it, and travel is just one of the most natural ways to go and do that.
Yep. It totally is. And it does take some money to travel, but there's a lot of ways to do it and get these same benefits without spending a lot of money. For example, um, we do staycations somewhat regularly. And so that requires us just like we go and stay in a different part of town than we would normally frequent and get a hotel and then like do the stuff that's in walking distance or right around there that we would hardly ever go to. So it's still change and different, without spending a ton of money or a ton of time because we didn't have a lot of travel time technically. But you get to like live in a different part of the city for however long you want to do. And like that's a one really affordable way to do it. Care Lab listener, I have a question for you. If someone you love needed a caregiver, what qualities would you want that caregiver to have? You probably want them to be reliable, trustworthy, kind, maybe just a generally dependable and good person, right? Second question, would you also want them to be trained? I'm gonna guess the answer is a definite yes. Okay, third and final question for you. Do you think it matters who gives that training? Like, is it cool if it's just in your body, or would you want that person to be a qualified expert? Assuming you do, in fact, love this person who needs a caregiver, you probably want the expert, right? Well, that's what Higher Standards Caregiver Training does. Higher Standards Caregiver Training provides 100% occupational therapist-led training for caregivers. Caregivers get taught everything from gold standard foundational skills for transfers and daily living tasks, all the way up to how to deal with specific diseases and injuries. And most importantly, they are taught all of these things in a way that is practical and enhances the participation of the person who needs the care. And it actually protects the safety of everybody involved. Why? Because everyone deserves a higher standard. For a course for individuals or learning about training for care for organizations, find that information at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com. And how many things in your own city are like, how much stuff is there to do that you don't go take advantage of that? My husband and I feel that way about Dallas all the time. Like, we have all these amazing museums and we've got these
great parks, and it's like, and there's shows and things, like there's so much that you can go do,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes when you're actually like a local of a city or a town, you don't necessarily go take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that whole idea of like doing a staycation, getting out of your home but going somewhere else in like the general area where you live, and we like to call it acting like tourist.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll go take a staycation and we'll just act like tourists
Mm-hmm.
in Dallas, and it's like, oh wow, there is some really cool stuff to do here. But it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone. You get to meet some new people, and just again, like it's all about expanding your horizons instead of letting them kind of shrink in on
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm. So, one thing, okay, this is required watching if you continue to listen to our podcast. And 'cause
Okay.
I might reference it a lot because it's so good. On Netflix, you can watch a thing called The Blue Zones. I'm gonna get the right title. I'm gonna link it in the show notes. But it's
Okay.
Blue Zone, the Path to 100. And so Blue Zones are these places in the world. I think there's 7 of them where people,
Oh, I've
yes,
heard of this on Netflix, and yeah, okay,
you
okay,
need to
sorry,
watch
I'm excited
this.
now. Keep going.
Now you also need to watch it before we record our next episode because otherwise you're kicked off.
Totally.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's like 7 places in the world, 7 or 8 places in the world where people live to be 100 or more at a significantly higher rate than any other place. And so this guy was on a quest to try to find the themes between all of these because these are literally all over the world, very different
Can I
cultures.
can I just interrupt? Can I guess one of the themes?
Yes,
Meaningful occupation.
it 100% is. They don't title it that, but it's that. So that's why I brought it
Yeah.
up because like one of the things that's a theme is that people have purpose in their life, even though they're whatever age and not working for money or anything. And so every
Mhm.
culture had something different. They had a different way they called it. People engaged in it in different ways, but the theme was that they had a purpose for getting up that morning, whatever that was. And so it's just super enlightening to watch. It's like probably 6 or 7 episodes, and it goes through a whole bunch of themes, which I think are really invaluable and important. But that's one of the main ones.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, obviously, like as occupational therapists, that's kind of what we always keep coming back to because
Mm-hmm.
it's the center of our profession is being engaged in meaningful activity, and how do we help support people's engagement in meaningful activity.
Mm-hmm.
But you almost can't overstate the significance of it, and I kind of feel like the rest of the world is sort of like figuring it out now.
Mm-hmm.
What we kind of have always been um like trying to share as a profession is the fact that you have to, and it's also a bit of common sense too, right? Like if you don't have a reason to get up in the morning,
Why are you getting up?
then why are you getting up? Why are you moving your body? Why are you bothering to take care of yourself? Why are you making sure that you know that you are getting your own basic needs met? But then also, like, can you be happy
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a purpose in life? Which also goes, our mental health. This is interesting. I'm going to take us off topic here a little bit, but how do you feel about like the distinction between like mental health and physical health? Because I think we should just call it health.
I think we should call it health too. Your brain is physical and it's a part of your body. So why are we not talking about it all together? It's all
Yeah.
connected. I was just about to say, like, I feel like maybe this is a very American thing, but we silo things so much that it makes it feel like, oh, if I am depressed, then I need to see a psychologist. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm also saying that it's also connected to probably what you eat, how your sleep is, your activities, what you're engaged in, how your social relationships are with your family. All of those things play a part. It's not just like, oh, take a pill, get on the right regimen, and be fine. Like that's a part of it too, but it's only a part.
Right. Exactly. And it's, of course, like mental health is largely related to the chemistry that is going on in our brain, which is a physical thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are like, the chemistry in our brain is a physical thing. It is not an imaginary thing that
Mm-mm.
makes us feel one way or another. It is actual like chemicals in our brain that can cause us to fixate on something or not fixate on something, or feel maybe manic or feel depressed or anything, or all of those things, right? And of course it's incredibly complex. And personally, I'm a big believer in better living through chemistry if it's something that works for you. But we can't ignore the fact that what we do in our bodies and in our activities also affects those chemicals in our brain. So, and I think like exercise is sort of the
Mm-hmm.
most obvious and well-known example of this, right? Like when we exercise, and if, everyone's aware of like famous runner's high, right? When we exercise, it stimulates like these positive endorphins in our brains. It stimulates dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can lower levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which can have really negative effects on our brain and our thinking, also on our cognition.
Yep.
Cortisol, being a stress hormone. So one of the things, fun fact about stress hormones, is one of the things that they do is their job is to like reduce inflammation. But over time, if you have too much of those hormones in you, it can actually lead to tissue damage. So
Balance.
like cortisol on the brain all the time, not good for your brain functioning if you want to think about, protecting your brain as you're aging and growing. So again, it's just an example of how deeply interconnected
Everything is.
our brains are part of our body. And the
Mm-hmm.
things that we do down below the level of our neck
Mm-hmm.
affect what is going on in our brains as well. And so we just have to be aware of that. And that's why I really think I think that we do a disservice to mental health when we, as you said, when we silo it out and categorize it as something that is just going on right here, or that is just like an emotional experience. Our emotional experiences are physical experiences. To me, it's one and the same.
Yeah, and the thing that we do a bad job of, I think, is that well, I guess what I'm saying is that can feel overwhelming, what you just said, like all the ways that it's interconnected and all the levers you can pull to make your body function, feel different ways. And I think
That's
instead
true.
of
I'm really good at being overwhelming. I'm super good at things that are like interesting to me. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. And people are like, I need you to stop talking right now. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
it's but this is what I'm trying to say. It's really important to understand that there's all this background to it, but I don't think people need to parse it out. You just need to listen to what your body is telling you and understand that you are the expert about your body. And I know that as physicians and doctors of occupational therapy, it's like, oh, well, you know what I'm supposed to do. Tell me what to do. Surely we can help guide you on this process, but we need to take ownership of our own selves in a way and our own health by understanding that like you can impact change in how you feel by what you do. And it doesn't have to be complicated because I'm pretty sure you know the stuff that makes your body feel good, that you like to eat, that makes you think about the times that you feel the most alive, the most yourself, what was going on around that, all the things, not just like what was happening that day, but like who were you involved with and what activities were you doing and how well was your sleep. Like you can figure out some things that are always beneficial for you, and you don't need to know what's happening chemically in your brain technically to know that it's a good thing for you and you should keep doing more of it, and then add another thing in.
That reminds me, okay, I was listening to, and I can't remember who exactly the speaker was. I'll see if I can look it up so I can maybe link to it for this podcast. But I was listening to the show on NPR that's only on super early in the mornings on Saturdays. And that's because I work some Saturdays at the hospital or rehab. So I'm up like really early going in to work
Wait a
those
minute,
days.
that means
And
you
this is
listen
what's
to the
always,
radio rate you listen to the regular radio
I listen to NPR
on the regular
on the regular.
radio.
Well, yeah, in my
Okay,
car.
I just wanted to highlight that and make a note. I listen to NPR all the time, but on podcast whenever I want to. So I don't have to listen to it early in the morning on Saturday. I can listen to it whenever I want to. They have a whole app actually for that exact purpose. So you can watch all their NPR shows.
Thank you for thank you for ushering me into this century.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But I listen to it on the real radio in my car on the way to work, like super early mornings on Saturdays. Okay, it's called People's Pharmacy. I love it and actually don't like it for so many reasons, but I can't help but listen to it. And they had this person on though they have these really interesting guests on. They have great guests, and they were talking about like mindful eating.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it was all really just about mindfulness, and it just tied. The reason I bring it up is because it tied so perfectly into what you were saying. Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It's just about like sitting with yourself, allowing yourself to not be distracted
Mm-hmm.
by the 100 things in front of you, and in fact maybe intentionally not distracting yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, how many times are you sitting there, you're sitting there bored and you're like, oh, and you just don't want to be bored.
Mm-hmm.
And so your brain, which we're all addicted to our devices, your brain is just like, oh, well, give me a hit of something from, my phone, or I'm going to scroll through my, curated algorithm news feed and only hear about the things that I want to hear about. And, all of which, by the way, anyway, sorry, that's a different
I was
topic.
like, don't go down that
Um,
tangent. I understand where you're going.
I'm not going down that road, but just sitting and like really recognizing how your body feels
Yep.
about, and in this case they were talking about eating, but recognizing like, how does my body actually feel right now? Am I actually hungry?
Mm-hmm.
After I ate, this like bag of candy, do I actually feel good or do I feel bad?
Mm-hmm.
And allowing your body to inform you. And I think that's it's a relatively simple thing to do, but it's a lost skill that we have with all of the distractions.
Yes.
But point being, Brandy's right, as always, of course. If you listen to your body and you let your body be honest with you, and then you're honest with yourself about it, 99.9% of the time it's going to tell you the right thing to do.
Yep.
The day when you want to just lay in bed and you think that's going to feel good, but you know that actually if you lay in bed till noon, you're going to feel crummy and depressed, and you're going to feel bad about yourself, and then you're going to feel more tired, like, that. So when you allow yourself to like be present and acknowledge that and listen to it, then it helps you to make the better decision. Say, no, I think I'm going to get up and take the dog for a walk instead, or
Yep.
whatever it is.
Even something little.
Even something little. It doesn't have to be big. It's just about, making these decisions that help to not make your world smaller, keep your body moving, make decisions that are going to make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Common sense stuff, but stuff that we don't necessarily always follow through with.
Yeah, we don't take the time to listen to it, I think, is the main thing. And I think sometimes we feel intimidated that we don't know all of the anatomy and chemistry and stuff that's going on in our bodies, and therefore we need to defer to somebody else. But anybody else outside of your own body is not an expert on your body, right? And so it's just really important to have that perspective and like give yourself the freedom to do that. And it's not just the physical things. I mean, we already decided that mental health and physical health are health, right? It's also just like, I feel envious and jealous or bad. Maybe I don't even have words for it. I just feel bad when I keep scrolling Instagram because it feels like everybody else's life is better than mine. Okay, maybe I should limit how much time I'm scrolling on that particularly. I'm not going to cut it all the way out, but maybe I'm just like, I'm good on this. 1 minute. Or I'm going to take a break from it for a couple of weeks or whatever. Just actually like paying attention is really the main thing.
Yeah. So I feel like we've
gone all over the world.
We've covered this. We've solved all the problems of the world, obviously.
That's our goal.
During this episode. But just quick recap, big takeaways. Your brain can always grow and change. And it can grow and change for the better, or it can grow and change for the worse. And that depends on the input that you put in there. So do cool, fun stuff that you like. Challenge yourself, and think about making your world smaller. Or, nope, sorry, that's not right. Think about how can you make your world bigger, a bigger, grander, greater place versus kind of shrinking in on yourself. And what else? What are other takeaways?
And that's not a luxury. It's a necessity for you to have longevity. So this is not for the future. This is for now. It was for yesterday, actually. So start now. And it's important, and you deserve to do those things because you want to have a long, healthy life.
Yep. All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Care Lab, please make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you're following us so that you can get updates on when the next episode is released. And of course, if you have a Care Lab question, please don't hesitate to submit that to us. We would love to address your Care Lab questions. If we can't, we'll do our best to get someone on the show who can help to address that question. So like I said, please, again, make sure to like, subscribe, share, hit all the buttons, all the good ones.
Exactly.
Not the bad ones. Hit all the good ones. And we'll see you next time on Care Lab.
Thanks.
Bye.